Captain Adriana Vale stood at attention in the United Earth Embassy on Proxima Station, her military dress uniform feeling unusually restrictive under the scrutinizing gaze of the Astrian delegation. Their crystalline bodies refracted the station's lights, creating dancing patterns across the embassy's walls. The sight would have been beautiful if not for the tension filling the room. "You understand what you're accepting responsibility for, Captain." High Chancellor Reinex's voice resonated like wind through crystal caves. "Princess Kalis is problematic." Adriana maintained her diplomatic composure, though her jaw clenched slightly. "I understand that the princess has unique abilities that your people find challenging." "Challenging?" Another delegate scoffed, their crystalline form darkening. "She warps the very fabric of reality around her. Our quantum matrices cannot stabilize in her presence. She is an aberration. We prefer the term gifted on Earth." Adriana responded coolly. 20 years of diplomatic service had taught her to hide her anger behind professionalism. And from what I understand, her ability to manipulate quantum fields could be revolutionary if properly understood. The chamber fell silent as a new figure entered. Princess Kalis moved like liquid starlight, her crystalline form more transparent than her peers, with swirling patterns of energy visible beneath her surface. Unlike the rigid geometric shapes of other Astrians, her form seemed to flow and shift subtly, defying their race's normal physical laws. "I apologize for my lateness." Kalis spoke, her voice carrying harmonics that made the air itself vibrate. "I was saying goodbye to my gardens." Adriana felt her breath catch. The reports hadn't prepared her for the princess's presence, where other Astrians were beautiful in the way that diamonds were beautiful, cold, perfect, and hard. Kalis was beautiful like an aurora, alive with movement and possibility. "The terms of exile have been set," Chancellor Renex announced. "You will be remanded to Earth's custody. Your title and claim to the eternal crystal throne are suspended. Should you learn to control your aberrant abilities, the suspension may be reconsidered." Adriana stepped forward. "Under Earth law, the princess will have full rights and protection as a political refugee. Any attempt to forcibly return her to Astrian space will be considered an act of war." The declaration caused a ripple of darkness through the assembled delegates' crystalline forms. Adriana knew she was pushing boundaries, but Earth's government had been clear. They wouldn't let the Astrians treat their own people like defective machinery to be discarded. "You would risk war over one defective princess." Reinex's voice held genuine confusion. "We would risk war to protect anyone seeking asylum from persecution," Adriana corrected. "Her royal status is irrelevant to our commitment to basic rights." Kalis moved to stand beside Adriana, and the captain felt the air charge with energy. The quantum fluctuations the Astrians feared were subtle but noticeable, a slight blur in reality, like heat waves rising from hot pavement. "I accept Earth's protection," Kalis announced formally, "and I renounce my claim to the throne freely, not under coercion." She turned to Adriana. "I place my safety in your hands, Captain Vale." The next few hours passed in a blur of diplomatic paperwork and barely veiled threats from the Astrian delegation. Finally, Adriana escorted Kalis to the Earth transport that would take them home. As they walked through Proxima Station's corridors, other aliens gave them a wide berth, some even changing direction entirely to avoid them. "They fear you," Adriana observed once they were alone in the transport's private cabin. "They fear what they don't understand," Kalis replied, her form shifting with patterns that Adriana was beginning to recognize as emotional expressions. "My people believe in perfect order, in crystalline symmetry, and predictable quantum states. I represent chaos to them." "Chaos isn't always a bad thing," Adriana said, settling into the pilot's seat. "Some of humanity's greatest discoveries came from embracing chaos and uncertainty." "Is that why your people accepted guardianship of me?" "Scientific curiosity." Adriana initiated the launch sequence before responding. "Partially, but mostly because we know what it's like to be feared for being different. Earth's history is full of people being persecuted for abilities or traits others didn't understand. And now, Kalis asked as the transport broke free from the station's artificial gravity. Now we try to be better than our history. Adriana plotted their course to Earth. You'll find Earth different from your homeworld. Messier, less structured, but also more accepting of those who don't fit perfect patterns. As they accelerated toward Earth, Adriana noticed the quantum distortions around Kalis had calmed. The princess was watching Earth grow larger in their viewport, her crystalline form reflecting the blue-green planet like a prism. Captain Vale. Adriana, please, we're going to be spending a lot of time together. Adriana, thank you. Not just for the protection, but for seeing me as someone to be understood rather than something to be fixed. The captain smiled, watching their approach vector. Welcome to the beginning of your new life, Your Highness. Just Kalis, the princess corrected. I'm not a princess anymore. I'm simply myself. As Earth's atmosphere began to embrace their ship, Adriana realized this assignment would be unlike anything in her 20 years of service. She was no longer just a diplomatic captain. She was now guardian to a quantum-bending crystal princess who defied the laws of physics just by existing. The real challenge wouldn't be protecting Kalis from her people. It would be helping her discover who she could become when freed from their limitations. As they descended toward the Rocky Mountain complex that would be their new home, Adriana made a silent promise to help Kalis find that freedom, no matter the cost. The Rocky Mountain complex's quantum research lab wasn't designed with an Astrian princess in mind, but after 3 months, it had adapted to accommodate Kalis's unique energy signature. Or perhaps, Adriana mused, watching from the observation deck, Kalis had learned to adapt to it. Quantum field stability at 60% and holding, Dr. Rosalind Patil announced, her dark eyes fixed on readings that would have given most physicists headaches. That's a 15% improvement from last week, Kalis. The crystalline princess hovered in the center of the testing chamber, her form rippling with internal light. Where once her quantum distortions had been chaotic and unpredictable, now they pulsed in rhythmic patterns, like waves on a cosmic shore. I can feel the difference. Kalis's harmonious voice carried through the chamber speakers. It's like learning to breathe underwater. The energy wants to flow naturally, not fight against itself. Adriana smiled, remembering their first attempts at these exercises. 3 broken quantum containment fields and 1 spectacularly failed attempt at meditation later, they discovered that Earth's traditional methods of control and suppression wouldn't work for Kalis. Instead, they had to embrace the chaos. That's enough for today, Rosalind called out. Let's not push our luck with the containment fields. As Kalis descended from her hover, Adriana made her way down to the main lab. She arrived just as the princess was emerging, her crystalline form glowing with residual energy. You're getting stronger, Adriana observed, falling into step beside her. More controlled, not stronger, Kalis corrected. The strength was always there. I just never understood how to work with it instead of against it. She paused, her form shifting in what Adriana had learned was embarrassment. Though I still need to replace Dr. Patel's coffee maker. Apparently, quantum fluctuations and espresso machines don't mix. Adriana laughed, a sound that made Kalis's crystalline surface ripple with pleasure. Their daily walks through the complex had become a comfortable routine, a chance to decompress after the intense training sessions. The Astrian ambassador sent another message. Adriana mentioned as they reached the residential wing. They're concerned about reports of your increasing instability. Kalis's form darkened slightly. They mean they're concerned I'm learning to control my abilities without their approved methods. What did you tell them? That Earth's definition of stability differs from theirs, and that all reports indicate you're progressing exactly as expected. Adriana smirked. I may have attached Dr. Patel's latest research paper on quantum consciousness evolution. All 300 pages of it. You're terrible, Kalis laughed, the sound creating tiny rainbows in the air around them. Their comfortable moment was interrupted by the complex's alert system. Captain Vale to Command Center. Priority message from Astrian space. Adriana sighed. Never a dull moment. Want to join me? Always. The command center screens were already active when they arrived, displaying a sight that made Kellis freeze mid-step. Another Astrian with flowing, unstable patterns stood before them, their form crackling with barely contained quantum energy. Princess Kalis, the figure spoke, their voice carrying the same harmonic qualities as Kalis's. Was Prince Tensor of the Third Spiral. I seek asylum on Earth. Another one. General Santos muttered from her position at the main console. The Astrians said the princess's condition was unique. They lied. Kalis moved closer to the screen, her own quantum field responding to the prince's distress. How many of us are there, Tensor? Dozens, perhaps hundreds. They keep us isolated. Tell us we're alone in our defection. Tensor's form flickered. But we found each other. Created a network. When we heard about your success on Earth. You're being pursued, Adriana noted, recognizing the tension in the prince's posture. The quantum suppression fleet is 20 minutes behind me. I cannot return to containment. Please. General Santos turned to Adriana. Captain Vale, this could trigger an interstellar incident. The Astrians have made it clear they consider these quantum sensitives their internal affair. Adriana looked at Kalis, saw the hope and fear warring in her crystalline patterns. Then she straightened. Decision made. General, I recommend we deploy the Quantum Response Fleet to escort Prince Tensor to Earth space. If the Astrians want to discuss their internal affairs, they can do so through proper diplomatic channels. Approved. Santos nodded. But Captain, this makes you more than just a guardian now. You're becoming the focal point of a potential revolution. Adriana felt Kalis's field brush against her consciousness, a gesture that had become increasingly common between them. It carried gratitude, affection, and something deeper that neither of them had dared name yet. Maybe it's time for a revolution, Adriana replied. Kalis, would you like to help me coordinate the rescue of your cousin? I would like nothing better. Kalis's form blazed with purpose. It's time my people learned that different doesn't mean broken. As they worked to secure Tensor's safe passage, Adriana realized their quiet days of training and walks might be coming to an end. The arrival of another quantum sensitive would change everything. Politically, scientifically, and personally. The Astrian Empire wouldn't ignore this direct challenge to their authority. But watching Kalis work, her quantum field harmonizing with Earth's technology in ways that should have been impossible, Adriana couldn't bring herself to regret it. Sometimes the most important battles weren't fought with weapons, but with the simple act of offering sanctuary to those who needed it. And if the way Kalis's field intertwined with her own consciousness meant anything, perhaps they'd found something even more valuable than political asylum. They'd found a connection that transcended the boundaries between their species, a quantum entanglement of hearts that no empire could sever. The arrival of Prince Tensor triggered exactly the diplomatic storm Adriana had expected. 6 months after granting him asylum, the Rocky Mountain complex had transformed from a quiet research facility into the heart of what the media dubbed the quantum revolution. Another 3 quantum sensitives detected entering Earth space, Lieutenant Rodriguez reported, updating the holographic display in the command center. That makes 15 this month alone. Adriana studied the incoming trajectories while Kalis and Tensor worked in tandem, their quantum fields creating a protective bubble around the refugee ships. Over the past months, their abilities had grown exponentially, especially when working together. The suppression fleet is maintaining distance, Tensor noted, his crystalline form pulsing with concentration. They've learned their lesson about entering our combined field radius. That lesson had been expensive for the Astrians. Their first attempt to forcibly retrieve refugees had resulted in their ship's quantum drives completely decrystallizing. No lives were lost, but the message was clear. Earth's protection of quantum sensitives wasn't merely political. Incoming transmission from the Astrian High Council, Rodriguez announced. Priority 1. Put them through, Adriana sighed, straightening her uniform. Let's hear today's threats. The holographic display shifted, revealing High Chancellor Renex and a full complement of council members. Their crystalline forms were darker than usual, a sign of severe agitation. Captain Vale. Rynex's voice held barely contained fury. You will cease this interference in Austrian affairs immediately. These defectives are property of the Empire. People cannot be property, Chancellor, Adriana replied calmly. Each sensitive who has sought asylum has done so of their own free will. Under interstellar law. Laws written by organic species for organic species, another council member interrupted. Our people are living quantum technology. These defectives threaten the very stability of our civilization. Kalis moved forward, her quantum field making the transmission flutter. We threaten only your control, honored council. Your fear of change, of evolution, is what truly threatens our civilization. You dare. Rynex's form darkened further. You were given sanctuary, not permission to incite rebellion. Even now, your corruption spreads. Quantum sensitives across the Empire abandon their containment, spreading chaos. Spreading hope, Tensor corrected, joining Kalis. We found records, council members. The quantum sensitivity isn't a defect. It's our species' natural evolution. You've been suppressing it for generations, treating children like broken machinery when they show signs of transformation. Adriana watched the council members' reactions carefully. There, a flicker of something like guilt in some of their patterns. The truth of Tensor's words had struck home. This is your final warning, Rhynex declared. Return our people, or the Empire will consider Earth's actions an act of war. We're not your people anymore. Kalis's voice rang with authority that reminded Adriana she had been born to rule. We are free citizens of Earth, and we stand with humanity. The transmission cut off abruptly. Adriana turned to General Santos, who had been quietly observing. Orders, General. Maintain course, Santos replied. The President and Joint Chiefs are unanimous. We don't abandon refugees to persecution. But Captain, she paused, looking at the assembled quantum sensitives. We need to be ready. The Australians won't stop at threats forever. We'll be ready, Kalis assured them, her field brushing against Adriana's consciousness in what had become an intimate gesture. We're stronger together than they ever imagined possible. Later that evening, Adriana found Kalis in their shared quarters, her form casting prismatic patterns across the walls as she processed the day's events. Credit for your thoughts, Adriana asked, settling beside her. I never wanted to start a war, Kalis admitted. When I came to Earth, I thought I was alone. Broken. Now I know there are hundreds, maybe thousands like me, and each one that finds freedom chips away at the Empire's control. Revolution often starts with a single act of kindness. Adriana reached out, letting her hand pass through Kalis's quantum field. The familiar tingle of their connection made both of them smile. Is that what made you accept guardianship of me? Kindness. At first, Adriana admitted. Then it became something more. The words they'd been dancing around for months hung in the air between them. Kalis's form shifted, creating patterns Adriana had learned to read as deep emotion. The Council would say this connection between us is impossible. That organic and quantum consciousness can't truly bond. The Council says a lot of things that aren't true. Adriana moved closer, feeling Kalis's field embrace her. They don't understand that love transcends physical forms. Love. Kalis's whole being seemed to glow. Is that what this is? You tell me, Quantum Princess. You're the one who can read energy patterns. Their moment was interrupted by the station's alert system. Multiple quantum signatures detected. The suppression fleet is mobilizing. They shared a look, knowing their peaceful evening was over. But as they hurried to the command center, their fields remained intertwined, organic, and quantum consciousness working in perfect harmony. The war they'd hoped to avoid might be coming, but they'd face it together. And maybe, just maybe, their impossible love would show both their peoples that evolution, of species, of society, of the heart, couldn't be contained or suppressed forever. "Ready to save more of your people?" Adriana asked as they entered the command center. Kalis's form pulsed with determination. "Our people, Adriana. Earth has become home to all of us now." Around them, the complex hummed with activity as humans and quantum sensitives prepared to face whatever the Empire would throw at them. They had created something unprecedented, a synthesis of two species, a revolution of both science and spirit. And no force in the galaxy could stop an idea whose time had come. The Astrian Empire's ultimatum came at dawn, Earth time. Their entire crystalline fleet emerged from quantum space, 10,000 ships strong, their crystalline hulls turning Earth's orbit into a sea of living light. The Empire demands the immediate surrender of all quantum sensitives. High Chancellor Renex's transmission boomed through every communication channel on Earth. Comply or witness the might of the eternal crystal throne. In the Rocky Mountain Complex's quantum chamber, Kalis stood with 300 fellow quantum sensitives, their combined fields creating patterns of energy never before seen in the universe. Adriana watched from the control center, her heart racing as they implemented their desperate plan. "Earth does not bow to threats." President Chen's response echoed across space, "And we do not abandon our people." The battle that followed would be remembered for centuries. The Empire's ships fired quantum destabilizing weapons meant to crystallize Earth's atmosphere. But they hadn't counted on the evolved abilities of their outcasts. 300 quantum sensitives, led by their former princess, reached out across space with their combined consciousness. Instead of fighting the Empire's quantum weapons, they embraced them, redirecting and transforming the energy. Where destruction was meant to reign, new patterns formed. The sky above Earth became a canvas of quantum art as two forms of existence learned to dance together. "It's working," Tensor called out, his form blazing with effort. "The fleet's quantum matrix is responding to our resonance." Adriana watched in awe as ship after ship in the Imperial fleet began to change, their rigid crystalline structures flowing into new forms, just as the quantum sensitives had done. The Empire's greatest weapon became the key to its transformation. When the quantum dust settled, Earth's orbit held not an invasion fleet, but a gathering of transformed ships and transformed beings. Nearly half the Imperial fleet's crews had undergone spontaneous quantum evolution, their suppressed potential awakened by exposure to the combined fields of the earthbound sensitives. High Chancellor Renex, his own form showing signs of change, stood before the emergency session of the United Earth Council. We did not understand. For generations, we thought quantum sensitivity was a flaw in our perfect crystalline matrix. Instead, it was the next step in our evolution. Kalis, her quantum field now permanently intertwined with Adriana's consciousness, stepped forward. "The Empire stands at a crossroads, Chancellor. Will you continue to fear change, or will you embrace it?" The transformation of the Empire was not instantaneous, but it was inevitable. The rigid hierarchy of the Crystal Throne gave way to a new form of governance, one that celebrated diversity of form and thought. Earth became the heart of a new coalition, where quantum and organic life learned from each other. "Not exactly how I planned to change the galaxy," Adriana mused, standing with Kalis in their quarters, watching the quantum lights dance across Earth's night sky. "When I accepted guardianship of one defective princess, I didn't expect to help spark an interstellar revolution." Kalis's form shifted with joy, her field caressing Adriana's consciousness. "You taught me that being different wasn't a flaw, that love could bridge any gap, even between organic and quantum life." Everything else followed from that. And now, what does a former princess do when her revolution succeeds? Now, Kalis's form created patterns that Adriana had learned meant mischief. We explore what other impossible things we can make possible. After all, if a human and a quantum sensitive can fall in love and change an empire, then nothing in the universe is truly impossible. Adriana finished, reaching out to merge her consciousness with her quantum love's field. Above them, The stars sparkled with new possibility, as organic and quantum life throughout the galaxy learned to dance together in ways once thought impossible. The empire of perfect crystal symmetry was gone, replaced by something far more beautiful, a cosmos where change was celebrated, where difference was strength, and where love knew no bounds of form or physics. And it all began because one human captain looked at a defective princess and saw not a flaw to be fixed, but a star waiting to shine. The end.